Going on, everyone? Welcome to another quick episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Kaz, Chris, and Shad. As we've been doing over the past few weeks, we're going to go ahead and get into another round of our top 10s, rounding it off with the slot defenders this week. But before we get started, what's going on, fellas?
What's going on, man?
Training camp done started. I know everybody done seen a couple of clips here and there from their favorite team. Hey man, it's getting real.
It is getting real.
That's facts. It's a good time, man. It's a good time. We following it. We have our first, even though nobody's really of note playing in it, we have our first game tomorrow, the Hall of Fame game. So, I mean, at least football's back, So, I am excited.
Football is officially back, and on top of the Hall of Fame game, we do have finally the Hall of Fame inductees this weekend as well. But with the Hall of Fame game, that is something that you did mention that's kind of interesting, which, I mean, it's something we see every year. But it's always a question, especially now with the preseason being cut down to 3 games. Do you guys like that? The rookies aren't playing. Well, some of the rookies will play, but we know the main rookie everybody wants to see is Caleb Williams. And just for everybody's knowledge, the Hall of Fame game will be the Chicago Bears versus the Houston Texans. Obviously, the Houston Texans have a second-year quarterback, and as great as he was last year, extra reps could always help. How do y'all feel about that?
Just wanted to have a game, and of course, it's been like this for years. So, I mean, this is nothing new. But I just wanted to have a game to play during that weekend where people are getting, recognized, so you can go out on the field, have your whole ceremony and all that. But I think it's pointless. I think it's a pointless game to have if nobody's ever going to take it seriously. But it's been like that for years. I don't know if they're ever going to stop because, again, like they do want to have just that game, type of weekend. But I think it's always been pointless because we never seen, like, I don't want to say never, but it's been a very long time since we've seen people of note, players of note play in this game.
Because I feel like that's one of the reasons why they would, shrink down the amount of games. They're trying to get people to play in that game. And I feel like they should play in the game. You only got 3 games to prepare for the season in general, like live action, except for, I'm not sure as far as Chicago or Houston, but a lot of teams do have joint practices. So they like to say, those are better than just getting game time reps. But I mean, it's almost like, are you afraid that you don't want nobody to see how he actually looks? I mean, he's a rookie. So I would play him. That's just me. But I get, like Cass said, I mean, it's so far ahead of everybody else playing their game. Most people treat it as, oh, we just not going to play anybody worth any substance, really.
Yeah.
They treat it like how they used to treat the 4th preseason game. Like it's literally everybody who's playing that game is trying to make the roster.
Basically.
More so than, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. You want to cut down on as many hits as you possibly can. But I don't know if it's been 100% proven that this is actually helping, because we do see so many of these soft tissue injuries with your hamstrings and stuff like that. We do see these knee injuries happen, and it seems, I mean, maybe the past couple of years has cut down a little bbit, but it did seem like we were just having like an increased amount of ACL injuries compared to, when we were growing up. So I don't know how truly it is, in terms of like cutting down specifically on injuries, but I mean, I would like to see it. It's a first game. It's a kickoff game, at least get them in for a series, that would be cool. I mean, I think that's what everybody is there to see. Everybody's coming to look for, if you're like me, I love to watch. I'm always reading about, like Chris mentioned, it's training camp time. I'm always reading about the guys trying to make the team. So I do like, and appreciate the preseason and watching some of these, younger players or rookies or guys from the now new, UFL and stuff like that, trying to make it into the league.
Yeah.
But, at least one series, would definitely be great, especially I can understand like a Keenan Allen maybe not, getting in there, but, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, all these new guys coming over with DeAndre Swift. I mean, at least a series, like a series should be good enough. You get your body, used to taking to hits in a game setting, because the joint practices are one thing, and obviously the intensity is ramped up during that week of practice, but I still feel like there's never going to be anything like game and game speed, like when those lights are on, when the fans are true, like the maximum amount of fans are truly out, it gets a little different. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see. We can make this a reason to come back to check once the season starts and see if these two teams end up struggling coming out the gates. And they're always going to come up with any type of excuses, so that's going to be ours.
Yep.
But man, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the top 10. Top 10 slot defenders. Chris, what you got? I know this is a tough list, and but it's an important one. As slot defender is becoming more and more paramount in this league, and we're starting to see. I mean, I think a lot of people would argue the best slot defender last year, or two of the best slot defenders last year, especially in the AFC, were on the two teams that were the last two teams in the AFC. So I'm interested to see what your list is, and interested to see if you've got anybody jumping in, any of the younger guys jumping in as well.
For my slot defenders, I got your boy Kenny Moore, Trent McDuffie, Brian Branch, Tyron Johnson. I got Nate Hobbs, Mike Hilton. I got Tavier Thomas. I got my boy Avonte Maddox. Even though he stayed hurt, he's still one of the best slot defenders I think in the league. And then I got Greg Newsome.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Solid list. And it's a little weird because there are some guys like Kyle Hamilton was one of the guys that I was talking about that people kind of view him as a slot, view him as a safety. He's kind of a hybrid player. So we used a couple of these guys in the safety. So I'm wondering if you guys are going to also put him in here in the top 10 slot list.
I didn't use Brian Branch as a safety when we said it, but I did use Kyle Hamilton. So that's why I didn't say it that time.
Yeah. And I get it. And, I think Brian Branch has an opportunity to make the jump and be the guy. The past couple of years it's been, a mixture of Mike Hilton, Kenny Moore, and now Trent McDuffie. So, and Taron Johnson as well, all pro. So don't want to miss out on him as well. So what say you, Cass?
All right, a little similar at the top. Trent McDuffie. Got to have him in there. Kenny Moore. I also got Brian Branch. I didn't put him on the safety list, so I'll add him here. I was going to add Kyle Hamilton, but I was like, let me add somebody else to since we already talked about Kyle and his versatility. So I got Mike Hilton on mine too. Taron Johnson from Buffalo. And then I also have Diamador from the 49ers. He kind of had a little of a breakout season last year. He had 3 picks. More of a projection as well, but he seems to be a good focal point at defense going forward. The thing about let me finish my list and I'll say it. I got Roger McCreary from the Titans, solid against the run, solid blitzer as well. The same goes for I got Nate Hobbs from the Raiders on there as well. Kyler Gordon, more of a projection too, but he has had 5 picks the last couple of seasons, working out primarily out of the slot. And I got Alante Taylor from the Saints, who was also a solid blitzer as well. And I think that's like what we're seeing, out of slots now. You got to be good against the run with all this nickel in the league. So being solid blitzers, being solid against the run, a lot of these guys are like had a few tackles for losses that they're good at. What's also interesting about my list is like besides like Mike Hilton, that nigga, but everybody else is like 25 and younger. So I guess like you're seeing more specialized roles for those, and I think it's starting earlier and earlier in college, just with all the passing. How much passing has just taken form. So it's interesting to see like most of the slot guys in the league are all just younger guys in general because.
And I think
I guess.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to say I guess as you get older you end up moving to the outside and just moving to safety too. So that's a possibility. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just think that nowadays that, like you said, it's such an important position. Like they willing to, try everybody at it. Because I can speak on the Eagles. Lately, we've been having Quinyon Mitchell, our first round draft pick, in the nickel spot right now. They're just trying to get the most athletes on the field at one time. So I think, like you said, nickel position is really being prominent right now it's literally a real position. Like no more 3 down linebackers for the most part. It's two linebackers, and since you're taking one off, like you said, you got to be good at run support.
Yep.
And you got, and like you said, it's you got to be a 3-down linebacker. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, when we were talking about our linebackers. But when you pull them off, you see a lot of these safeties. So a lot of the nickel defenders is, we saying slot, or I wrote down slot corner, but it's not really slot corner
It's
because
really
it's more like it's
safety.
just a slot
Yeah.
position. So star position could be a safety, could be we're seeing a lot of guys that are converted safeties being turned into linebackers or stuff like that. So it's definitely, I mean, the physicality of the position, having to play inside, having to go outside, having to also defend the run and blitz like a lot of these guys specialize in. I mean, definitely gotta have a body, gotta have the girth pause, and definitely gotta be physical there. But getting into my list, I'm gonna start off with my number one guy, Kenny Moore. Been doing it year in, year out. Trent McDuffie, obviously, and one guy similar to Trent. I mean, obviously they used to be teammates, but to kind of go into your point about how it's like a quote unquote real position, L'Jarius Sneed was a guy that was really mostly a slot guy, and then as the years have gone on, he's become kind of what people have viewed him as a shutdown corner, just both inside outside. But that's what added to his versatility, where he can do both inside and outside. But he's not on this list because I think I had him on my cornerback list. But continuing with my list, I also had Mike Hilton. The older statesman, him and Kenny Moore kind of holding it down. Getting into some of the younger guys, I also had Brian Branch, dominant at Alabama, came out the gate swinging. He had a pick six in his very first game against Patrick Mahomes. Kind of that, that was kind of the statement that kind of led the Lions to their deep playoff run. From the Eagles, I actually put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Obviously, he kind of does everything where he plays safety, he plays slot, he's physical. He talks his shit, as we've seen over the past couple of days. Going back and forth with some folks, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson always a good player. And I think he was kind of hurt last year, so he'll get back to it. Had a decent close to the season. I have a guy that Cass put on his cornerback list, but Devin Witherspoon. Was dominant out of the slot last year. He was obviously, I'm pretty sure, my defensive rookie of the year expectation last year. And it was looking good for a couple of weeks, and then
for a couple
the Seahawks and everything started to tail off. But especially with Mike going over there to be the head coach, I just think they get back to being a dominant defense, and he's a large part of it. Taron Johnson, of course, all pro this past year. Gotta have him on the list. Greg Newsome, another guy, which when I made this list, I forgot that he got hurt, or not hurt, but he had an off-season surgery. So we'll see how that goes getting into the season. But continuing with that dominant Browns defense, I also had Alontae Taylor on my team on this list from the Saints. And then rounding off with Roger McCreary as well. With them getting L'Jarius Sneed, I just think that their defense should, you expect a little bit of a defensive improvement. And, he's been getting better every year since he's got out of Auburn. I liked him as a college prospect, and I think that he continues his great play, physical as well. So, that's my list, and I'm sticking to it.
Solid list for sure. I mean, we got a lot of crossover. I would say me and you definitely have a lot of crossover. But I mean, it just goes to show you. And then like Chris said, these young guys are coming into the league that are going to play a lot more slot. It could happen for Cooper DeJean, even though I don't think it will. But somebody going to that slot for the Eagles. You know what I mean? They got it's a farm over there of DBs now.
Too many DBs.
Yeah,
but I mean, you can't really have too many because shit.
That's true too.
And that's people get hurt, and I mean, it's gonna be. The Eagles will definitely be a team to watch during cut week, and in terms of making trades, if they try to keep the the cornerbacks that they've got, because I mean they've got a lot that young guys, older guys. How do you get rid of a Darius Slay? You draft 2 cornerbacks with your top 2 picks, basically. Bring in Isaiah Rodgers, who was a former starter. Avonte Maddox,
I'm gonna just say I think they waiting on, like you said, an injury here and there, and then they're gonna try to get rid of somebody. Because I mean,
you
just
have
don't
no
want to
choice. You have no choice.
You just
It's
don't
too
want to
many.
cut these folk for the free ski. You know what I'm saying? So he
Colts
trying
just
to
need to
wait.
go ahead and bite the bullet. Send that little 7th round pick or something for Isaiah Rodgers. Bring him back home where he's supposed to be.
Man.
Bring him back
That's
home where he's supposed to be, man. I don't know, bro's tripping. You know, he took his little break off. Bring him back home where he's supposed to be. Let him get in that starting spot. We get rocking.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right.
Okay. Yeah, watch how Chris Ballard worked.
Nah, but I mean, unlike y'all two, I'm worried about like for y'all teams, I should say, I'm worried about my team with the slot. Like we're still trying to like find out, and with it becoming that like even more important, like it's tough to roll out like undersized guys at that slot. Like they're like trying to do, maybe we'll do like Clark Phillips or D Alford for the Falcons. I'm talking about. So I mean, it just shows you, like, it just goes to show you, like, this shit is important, and it's something that is like, I hope we trade for one or something, pick up somebody. But it's looking rough right now.
Physicality, especially as an undersized player. I mean, you see Mike Hilton and Kenny Moore, both two undersized guys, but you know, we've seen plenty of times of Mike Hilton standing people up, blitzing. Kenny Moore, I mean, we've seen him, you know, go toe to toe with Derrick Henry and bring him down. So, it's necessary. And I won't even say, just to give a quick story, the only reason, like, Chris Ballard wasn't even I don't want to say he wasn't a fan of Kenny Moore. The only reason that he even, you know, took a chance on Kenny Moore is because he had just abnormally long arms and a huge wingspan. So it was just something that made him stick out. But because of his size, like, if it wasn't for those arms, he would have never gotten that opportunity with the Colts. He obviously started off with the Patriots, but I mean, they didn't really give him an opportunity either. So, I mean, you just see,
sucks.
You know, you see how it says with the size. I mean, it
reminds me of like how about Brandon Boykins. I mean, I feel like he was a fire as nickel corner, but once he left the Eagles, it was like, yeah, we don't want that size at a cornerback position.
And now bro's like a bodybuilder. It's crazy. Hey, shout out Brandon Boykin, UGA legend. UGA legend.
I fuck with him tough.
He might have been probably one, you know,
before his time. He was before his time. Yeah.
If he was in his era cast, I think he would be.
He'd be eating.
Yeah.
He was probably my favorite. He might have been my favorite George Bulldog growing up, honestly. So I mean, that's at least one of my early memories of being a fan of a specific player. So I was pretty disappointed when he went to the Eagles, but I was happy. You know? He was dominating like he was, but you know, like you said, before his time, and I mean, that's really what we need to do. A top 10 list of players that were before their time, both in NBA and NFL. I mean, that'd be lit. That'd be an interesting list to come up with.
I like that.
You know, NBA, you got guys like Rasheed Wallace. I mean, some people say Tracy McGrady. You know, a lot of the power forwards that were in the 2000s, like
Gilbert Arenas.
KG. You know, Gilbert Arenas was definitely prior to his time. I mean, you could say AI. I mean, even though he was doing what he was doing, and AI now with God, AI now would be a problem.
Yeah, that shit would be nuts. That shit would be nuts.
Yeah, might have just plugged an idea. We might have just plugged an idea. Top 10 players before their time. Yeah, well, next time y'all catch us in a couple weeks, or once we get close to the season, we'll have to go ahead and give y'all a couple of those lists on both sides. But aside from that, we'll catch y'all in a couple weeks. We got a couple more Olympics, a couple more weeks to the Olympics going on. Seen some good games from both the USA men basketball team as well as the USA women basketball team as well. Got the most decorated Olympian ever in Simone Biles dominating again. Of course, Katie Ledecky dominating again.
Yep.
We'll see how the U.S. turns up in terms of their gold medals in a couple weeks here, and we'll catch y'all later, man.
Yes, sir.